Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. You know how sometimes it feels like life just throws you a curveball right when you're getting into a good groove?
It does feel that way sometimes.
Well, today we are going to be tackling setbacks head on, but not just, how to get over them,
Right.
but how to use them to gain momentum moving forward.
Yeah, I think what's often overlooked is that setbacks are not just these personal experiences. They're really woven into the fabric of success itself.
Yeah, interesting.
Even those people who seem to have it all figured out, they face their fair share of challenges. It's just not always visible.
Okay, so we're not talking about like a raw, positive vibes only approach here.
No, absolutely not.
We're going to be realistic.
We're keeping it real.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be diving into a fascinating lecture today titled Bouncing Back and Gaining Momentum. But we'll also be pulling from some cutting-edge research on resilience as well.
I love it. And, I think everybody listening can think of a time when they had a setback, the one that really stung, whether it was a professional rejection or a personal disappointment.
It's always that one that sticks with you.
But we rarely examine the aftermath.
That's so true. And that's where things get really fascinating.
Okay.
Studies actually show that how we process those feelings that we have after a setback and the stories that we tell ourselves afterwards can either trap us in a cycle of self-doubt
Ooh, I don't like that.
or they become the springboard for major growth. So it can go either way.
So wallowing is not the answer, but neither is pretending it didn't hurt.
Exactly. You've got to find that middle ground. One powerful approach is actually reframing failure as feedback. Have you ever heard that Thomas Edison quote about how he didn't fail 10,000 times? He just found 10,000 ways that didn't work.
Oh, yeah, that's a classic.
It's a classic for a reason.
Now, obviously, most of us are not trying to invent the light bulb,
Right.
but that mindset shift is pure gold.
It really is.
So instead of beating ourselves up, we need to analyze what went wrong and figure out what we can learn.
Precisely. And this is where the concept of resilience really comes into play. It's not some magical trait that you're born with.
Okay, good, because I don't think I was born with it.
It can be learned and honed over time.
Yeah.
It's a set of skills that you can hone and develop.
So how do we actually do that? Where do we begin building this resilience muscle?
Well, research shows that there are 5 key strategies that are consistently linked with bouncing back stronger from setbacks.
I'm ready. Let's hear it.
So we've got cultivating a growth mindset, practicing self-compassion, focusing on what you can control, mastering emotional regulation, and building a solid support network.
Okay, that's quite a list. So let's break it down, starting with this growth mindset. What does that look like in action?
So someone with a growth mindset, instead of seeing their abilities as fixed, they believe that they can develop their skills through effort and learning.
I like that.
Yeah, think of it as approaching challenges with a work-in-progress attitude.
Okay.
There's a Stanford psychologist, Dr. Carol Dweck. She's done some groundbreaking work in this area, and her research shows that praising effort, rather than just inherent talent, actually fosters a more resilient mindset.
So instead of saying to a kid, "You're so smart," we should say, "Wow, you really worked hard on that."
Precisely. That shift in focus can make a huge difference in how we approach setbacks.
Okay, I like that. What about self-compassion? Isn't that a little soft?
It might sound that way, but it's actually the opposite of soft. Self-compassion is about treating yourself with the same kindness that you would extend to a friend who's struggling with a similar situation.
Okay, so no more inner critic screaming, "You messed up."
Right. It's about silencing that inner critic.
We're going to offer ourselves a gentler, more supportive internal voice.
Exactly. It's recognizing that, everyone makes mistakes. It's how we respond that matters.
All right, what about focusing on what we can control? Isn't that a little bit of an oversimplification when things feel truly chaotic?
It can feel that way for sure. While we can't always control the external circumstances, we always have a choice in how we respond.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, and focusing on what we can influence, whether it's our attitude, our effort, or the next small step that we take that shifts our energy towards constructive action.
It's like that serenity prayer,
Yes.
Accepting the things I cannot change, having the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Exactly, and this ties into emotional regulation, which is another vital skill for resilience. It's about learning to manage those intense feelings that inevitably come up after we experience a setback.
So instead of letting frustration or disappointment just hijack our entire day, we have tools to navigate those emotions more effectively.
Yes, exactly. Techniques like mindfulness, deep breathing, or journaling can be incredibly helpful in processing those emotions and preventing them from spiraling out of control. And research even shows that even short bursts of mindful breathing can reduce stress hormones and improve our focus.
What about that last one, the support network? I think a lot of people struggle with asking for help, especially after a setback.
It's understandable.
Yeah.
After a setback, we often feel vulnerable. But surrounding yourself with supportive people can make a world of difference. Think of it like having a team of cheerleaders, advisors, and sometimes even reality checkers in your corner. They can offer different perspectives, encouragement, and practical help when you need it most.
So it's about recognizing that we don't have to go through this alone.
Exactly. And building a strong support network doesn't have to mean just relying on close friends or family. It can include mentors, colleagues, online communities, or even therapists. The key is to find people who genuinely want to see you succeed and who offer non-judgmental support.
Okay, so we've laid a really good foundation for building that resilience
Yeah.
with, a growth mindset, self-compassion, and that really important support network.
Absolutely.
But how do we shift gears from simply bouncing back to actually gaining momentum?
That's the key, isn't it?
It's almost like we need to reprogram our brains to see these setbacks not as, the end of the world,
Right.
but as like launch pad.
Yeah, it's really interesting because research actually shows our brains are wired to focus on the negative.
Really?
It's like a survival mechanism from back in the day, when we were cave dwellers.
Oh, wow.
But the good news is, with intentional effort, we can rewire those neural pathways to be more opportunity-focused.
So instead of dwelling on what went wrong, we train ourselves to say, okay, what can I learn from this and where can I go from here?
Exactly. And one really powerful technique is to actually challenge those automatic negative thoughts that tend to kind of flood in after we've experienced a setback.
Oh, yeah, that's the worst.
Instead of letting them run rampant, you pause and you examine their validity and you actively replace them with more constructive ones.
So it's like having a mental debate with our inner critic.
Exact.
Instead of just accepting its doom and gloom pronouncements, we're going to come back with some counter-arguments based on facts and logic and our past successes.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
And this isn't about denying the difficulty of the situation either. It's about recognizing that our thoughts aren't always an accurate reflection of reality.
Right.
They're often influenced by biases, past experiences, and even just our current mood.
This reminds me of cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yes.
CBT, isn't that all about identifying and challenging those unhelpful thought patterns?
Exactly. And while seeking professional help is always a good option, there are also some simple CBT techniques that we can use in our daily lives.
Oh, perfect.
For example, keeping a thought journal can help us become more aware of those recurring negative thought patterns and then start to reframe them.
So we're actually writing down those negative thoughts, and then we go back and analyze them and look for those distortions and
Yes.
come up with more, balanced alternatives.
Precisely. And it might sound simple,
Yeah.
but research shows that consistent journaling can actually significantly reduce stress and anxiety and promote more positive self-talk.
Okay, so we're actively combating those negative thoughts.
Yes.
What else can we do to kind of help shift into this momentum building mode?
This might sound a little counterintuitive, but embracing discomfort can be a game changer.
Wait, hold on. Intentionally seeking out discomfort.
Yes.
I feel like most people spend their lives trying to avoid discomfort.
True. But, discomfort is often a sign that we're stretching ourselves, growing, and stepping outside of our comfort zones.
That's a good point.
Think about it. If we only ever do what's easy and familiar, how can we expect to really reach new heights and achieve those ambitious goals?
Okay, I'm seeing the logic here. It's like physical exercise, right?
Yes.
We have to push our bodies to their limits in order to build that strength and endurance.
Right.
So maybe discomfort is like the mental equivalent of hitting the gym.
That's a great analogy. And just like with physical training, you don't start by lifting the heaviest weights.
Right.
You have to gradually increase the challenge, building your resilience and confidence along the way.
So instead of shying away from new experiences or avoiding challenges, we view them as opportunities to expand our comfort zones and develop new skills.
Precisely. And this doesn't mean recklessly jumping into situations that are clearly beyond our capabilities. It's about recognizing those moments where we feel, that slight edge of fear or hesitation
Yes.
and choosing to lean in rather than retreat.
So we're talking about calculated risks.
Yeah.
Feel the fear and do it anyway moments.
Exactly. And the more we embrace those opportunities for growth, the more resilient and adaptable we become. And that, in turn, fuels our momentum.
This is making me think about all of those really inspiring stories that we hear about people overcoming these incredible obstacles.
Yes.
Is there something powerful about actively seeking out those stories, especially when we're facing our own setbacks?
Absolutely. Surrounding ourselves with stories of resilience, whether from, Books, podcasts, mentors, or even everyday people in our lives that can be incredibly motivating. It reminds us that we're not alone, that setbacks are a universal experience, and that even amidst immense challenges, the human spirit can prevail.
It's like that saying, if they can do it, so can I. But it's not just about blind optimism, right? We have to actually extract lessons from those stories, figure out what worked for them, and then apply those principles to our own lives.
Absolutely. It's about active learning, not passive inspiration. Ask yourself what qualities or strategies allowed this person to overcome their challenges, and how can I cultivate those same qualities within myself?
Okay, so we're embracing discomfort, we're surrounding ourselves with these inspiring stories, and what else? What other tools can help us navigate this post-setback landscape?
One strategy that I find to be particularly effective is setting clear goals.
Goals. I think a lot of people, especially after a setback, might feel overwhelmed at the thought of setting big, ambitious goals.
That's understandable.
Mhm.
But remember, we're not talking about setting ourselves up for more disappointment. The key is to set SMART goals.
Smart goals.
Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
Oh, okay. So instead of just saying, I want to be successful, we're going to break it down into smaller, more concrete steps.
There we go.
Like, I will launch my online business within the next 6 months, or I will complete that certification program by the end of the year.
Precisely. SMART goals provide a roadmap for our journey, making it easier to track our progress and celebrate those small wins along the way. And after a setback, having those clear objectives in mind can be incredibly grounding and motivating.
It's like having a compass, guiding us back on track when we veered off course.
Exactly.
And I imagine the process of setting those goals can actually be empowering in itself.
It is.
It shifts our mindset from feeling like a victim of circumstance to feeling like we're actively, shaping our future.
Absolutely. And remember, goal setting isn't about rigid adherence to some predetermined plan. It's about having a direction, a vision for where we want to go while remaining flexible and adaptable along the way.
So we're allowed to adjust course, modify our goals as needed, and even celebrate those, failures along the way as valuable learning experiences.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
The journey is just as important as the destination, and embracing that mindset can make the entire process more enjoyable and fulfilling. And that's ultimately what fuels our momentum, a sense of purpose, progress, and the unwavering belief that even amidst challenges, we have the power to create a future that aligns with our aspirations.
This is all starting to make so much sense. We're not just bouncing back from setbacks, we're using them as stepping stones
Yes.
to become more resilient and adaptable and ultimately successful versions of ourselves.
I love that.
It's like we're creating a whole new playbook for navigating the ups and downs of life.
Yes.
A playbook that emphasizes growth and learning and a proactive approach to shaping our own destiny. But before we get too carried away with our newfound resilient superpower, let's all take a moment, maybe grab a glass of water, and then we'll be back for the final part of our deep dive, where we're going to explore some powerful mindset shifts that can transform our relationship with setbacks and unlock a whole new level of growth and fulfillment. All right, welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into bouncing back from setbacks. I feel like we've covered so much ground.
You have.
And I'm ready to hear more about those powerful mindset shifts that you mentioned.
Well, we have covered a lot already, from reframing failure as feedback to setting SMART goals. But one of the most transformative shifts, I think, involves cultivating a sense of perspective.
Perspective. So it's all about how you look at things.
Precisely. Our perspective really acts like a lens that shapes how we interpret and respond to those setbacks.
Yeah.
When we're kind of caught in that grip of negativity,
Yeah.
it's so easy to fixate on what went wrong
Yeah, you get tunnel vision.
and lose sight of the bigger picture.
So instead of dwelling on that immediate disappointment, we need to zoom out and look at the situation from a wider angle.
Exactly. Imagine you're standing right in front of a giant sequoia tree.
Okay.
You might be so close that all you see is bark. But if you step back, you can begin to appreciate the tree's immense height, its sprawling branches, and its connection to the whole surrounding forest.
Wow. That's a really good analogy.
Setbacks can be like that.
Yeah. We get so focused on the immediate, pain or frustration that we miss the valuable lessons and the potential for growth that they hold.
Exactly. And that's where the practice of gratitude can be really powerful.
Gratitude. But how can we be grateful when we're feeling down or discouraged?
It might seem a little counterintuitive,
Yeah.
but research actually shows that even in the midst of challenges, focusing on what we are grateful for can have a profound impact on our overall well-being and our resilience.
So it's not about denying the negative feelings, but about intentionally shifting our attention to the positive things even if it's just a few small things.
Precisely, think of it as a mental muscle that we can strengthen over time. The more we practice gratitude, the more we rewire our brains to actually notice and appreciate the good in our lives, even during those really tough times.
And I can see how that shift in focus can help us approach setbacks with, a more positive and resilient mindset.
Absolutely. When we cultivate a sense of gratitude, it's like we're creating a buffer against that negativity.
I like that.
It doesn't erase the challenges, but it gives us that source of strength and perspective that can help us navigate them more effectively.
So we're talking about perspective, we're talking about gratitude. What else, what's another key element of this mindset shift?
I think embracing the idea that setbacks are an inherent part of growth and progress.
So instead of viewing them as failures, we see them as opportunities for learning and development.
Exactly. Think of it like learning to ride a bike. You're bound to fall a few times
Oh, yeah.
before you actually master it. But each fall provides you with valuable feedback. You adjust your balance, you refine your technique, and eventually you achieve that sense of freedom and accomplishment.
And I imagine that same principle applies to any skill or endeavor that we pursue,
Right.
whether it's starting a business, mastering a new language, or building meaningful relationships. There are going to be stumbles and setbacks along the way.
Exactly. And those setbacks aren't signs that we're doing something wrong. They're simply indications that we're pushing ourselves beyond our comfort zones. And that's really where the real growth happens.
This makes me think of that quote by Samuel Beckett, "Ever tried, ever failed. No matter, try again, fail better."
I love that quote.
It's not about avoiding failure, but about learning from it and using it to fuel our progress.
Beautifully said. And that brings us to another really important aspect of this mindset shift, which is understanding that setbacks are often temporary and situational.
So instead of making these sweeping generalizations about ourselves, like I'm a failure or I'll never succeed, we need to recognize that the setback is specific to a particular situation or circumstance.
Exactly. It's the difference between saying, I messed up that presentation
Yeah.
and I'm a terrible presenter.
Oh, that's a great example.
The first statement acknowledges a specific event, while the second is creating a limiting belief that can really hold us back.
So it's about being mindful of our self-talk and choosing language that empowers us rather than limits us.
Precisely. And this ties into another really powerful mindset shift, which is recognizing our own agency and control.
Even when things feel completely out of our control.
Yes. Well, we can't always control those external circumstances. We always have a choice in how we respond.
That's very true.
We can choose to wallow in self-pity, or we can choose to learn from the experience and move forward with that renewed sense of determination.
So it's about focusing on what we can control, our attitude, our effort, our willingness to seek support, and use those elements to create positive momentum.
Exactly. And as we cultivate these mindset shifts, we begin to see setbacks not as roadblocks,
Okay.
but as detours, opportunities to discover new paths, learn valuable lessons, and ultimately arrive at our destination, stronger and wiser.
Yeah. This has been an incredible deep dive. I feel like I have a whole new toolkit for not just bouncing back from setbacks, but for embracing them as catalysts for growth and fulfillment.
And remember, these skills aren't only valuable for navigating challenges, but for enriching our lives as a whole.
That's so true.
They empower us to approach life with a sense of curiosity, resilience, and an unwavering belief in our own capacity for growth.
Listeners, what is one thing you are going to take away from this deep dive and apply to your own life? Think about it. We'd love to hear about it.
And remember, you are stronger than you think. Embrace those challenges. Learn from your setbacks, and never stop striving to be your best self.
That's a wrap on this deep dive into bouncing back from setbacks. We hope you found it valuable and empowering. Remember, setbacks are inevitable, but they don't have to define us. By embracing the strategies and mindset shifts that we've explored today, you can turn those challenges into opportunities for growth, resilience, and a more fulfilling life. Until next time, keep diving deep and keep striving for your best selves.